Don't take advice from someone you wouldn't change lives with, and don't take criticism from someone that you wouldn't change lives with as well. So, like, really knowing who you are as a person, being strong in your boundaries, and not being afraid to communicate it, but also not getting discouraged when a door is shut.
Welcome back to the Mark Faris Experience. Today we have Christina Romita here. She is just a real gem. I met her at the women's conference about a month ago, and she told me her story. I'm like, I have to get you on our podcast. So check this out. When Christina was 15 years old, she was 400 pounds and she was bullied. She was bedridden. And she was like, there was this fire that lit up in her that she's going to change her life. And so Christina actually started a gym from scratch. And the gym's called the Transformation Station. And so she's built it up to over 11 staff, 150 team members that's working with her, and she's actually a finalist for the Entrepreneur of the Year award in Barrie. And so, Christina, it's a real pleasure and a treat to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's go back to the very beginning. Why don't you share the origin story and, what was that desire and why did you have that desire? I gave a little bit of a spoiler alert there, but if you could share your origin story with us, that would be great.
Sure. So when I was about 15 years old, like Mark had said, I was 400 pounds. And to me, the weight that kind of like takes care of itself. But my story was my turning point, and that's when I was in Italy. And I remember I was halfway through grade 10. I was there with my schoolmates, and we weren't allowed to stay behind in the hotel, but I physically couldn't move. So I had to stay in my bed, and the teachers had to talk and they had to okay me to stay behind. So that was a turning point to me. I'm like, I can't even go out with other kids my own age because like I grew up pretty secluded and you only know what you know, right? So I didn't know. And when I was bedridden and it was because of my physical health, an engine light it turned on, and then from that point I just knew something had to change.
You're 15 years old, this happens, and then what happened between that period and then you starting your gym? So was there a slow growth into this idea that you wanted to start a gym and transform your life, or can you take us through that period of 15 to where you're at right now and how you started the gym as well?
I certainly can. So I just knew I needed something to change. So I tried all different diet places. I tried all different fads. And back then, the internet wasn't as fast forward as it is today. So I had to learn like through grit and just trial and error, trial by fire, things that worked, things that didn't work. I tried so many supplements, so many drugs, so much stuff, and
Mhm.
nothing could help me because even if I lost, let's say, 50 pounds, I remember going on a crash diet by the time I was 17, I'd say. I dropped about 50 pounds, and 6 months later, I was up another 80 pounds. So I had to learn and go through the grit and learn how to move my body. And then something just clicked, and I was like, okay, you know what? The first thing I want to do is be able to walk for 5 minutes without having to stop and like gasp for air. So I remember going to a gym and I felt a little bit uncomfortable, and I started with in-home walking at the time. And I actually didn't step foot into a gym until I already had lost over 50 to 60 pounds. And I started doing Billy Blank's Taibo 5 minute Taibo. And I'm like, if I can commit to 5 minutes in front of my bed, and thankfully I had enough room in my bedroom that I could be hidden away so no one would see me struggling and like gasping for air, then if I can do 5 minutes a day, I can commit to something bigger. So it was literally trial by fire for the last handful of years. I had bad experiences with personal trainers. I never did hire one just based on the interview process, but this is many years ago, and I never wanted to be a personal trainer. I never wanted to open a gym because from my background, my history, I didn't really get along with those types of individuals, and that was more about me at the time than it was about them.
And so you had this strong desire, and then you started by doing the small things first. So it was like you were doing small steps. So if I can just do 5 minutes of this, then I can get there. Take us through what was it that actually, so there was a strong desire there. I'm curious, as a lot of people say that, like, oh, if I can just start, what was it that actually said, okay, I'm going to actually start moving? Because going in that first direction and that those first steps, it takes a lot of energy generally just to get some momentum going. What was it that helped you start and then continue to take that step after step to be able to get some momentum going for you?
The same thing that I tell my members and my clients as well, is the same thing that I did, was start with what you have, start with the time you have. If you're not necessarily a morning person, then I think of, like, those little circle things, and they have like stars and squares, and then you try to put the star in the star and the square inside of the
Hmm.
square. So my biggest thing was I had so many failures, and even still, it's not ever linear. Like, it always still goes like
Yeah.
this, and I'm nowhere near what I was by any means. But for the most part, a lot of people try to take that star shape and they try to stick a square in it. And then they're wondering why it's not working. And they think, well, it works for everybody else. Why isn't it working for me? But that's not necessarily the case. So I started with, okay, at the time, now I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm ready to go. I'm a morning person. But back then, I was sleeping until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I was up until 11 p.m., 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I just made a point and I said, for 5 minutes, Monday to Friday, before I go to bed, no matter what time of day it is, I'm going to spend my five. It was supposed to be an 8 minute Tybo video. I could make it the full 8 minutes. So I would pop it in by the time he was done talking before and after. I'm like, oh, that's probably all of 4 to 5 minutes. But I made that commitment and I got it done. And no matter what I did, for lack of better words, come hell or high water, I had that 5 minutes. I could commit to 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. So you start with 5 minutes. You consistently you did it. And then what did you do after that? I'm curious with the ramp up and then getting to a point where you're waking up at 4:30 in the morning, from 11. What did you do after that? I'm curious as to how did you keep that momentum? Because a lot of people, they might start, they do it for a week or two, or they have a New Year's resolution. We're talking about like life change right now and changing your habits. So what did you do after that? So that I get the very beginning. So you had a desire to change, and then you created a must, as in like I have to do 5 minutes, going to commit to your. But how did you stick with it? And then what did you do to continue to stack on top of that to be able to get your results that you're getting now?
So I took what I was using that 5 minutes, and I had already lost about 50 pounds or so. And I actually joined a public gym. So when I
Mm,
joined that gym, it got me out of my bedroom. It got me, like, I remember I didn't know anything at the time. And I would go to the gym and I'd be like just trying to walk and survive on the treadmill, because then that was a different type of a feat. So instead of moving my own body, I ended up going to machines, which I then returned to functional fitness after that. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this contraption. And I remember walking in the room and there was a woman on this thing. And I'm like, what is this? What does this do? How do you even get on this? And it was an elliptical.
yeah.
I remember just fighting for my life, just 5 minutes. And then I turned my Taibo 5 minutes into an elliptical 5 minutes. And then I remember at the gym at the time, the machines were at the top. And I was just kind of like scouting everybody because I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't from a place of judgment, it was out of a place of fear, but also from a place that I need to learn everything that I can absorb right now. So I remember watching people lifting weights and then going on the machines. And at the time, I was like, okay, so I don't know how to lift the weights at this time, but I can figure out how to use this machine. So then I started lifting things. And I remember I'm like, I'll just start with 10 pounds on this machine. I do this because I'm thinking of like the chest press. I'm like, I'll just start with a 10-pound chest press machine and see how this goes. And then slowly but surely, as I returned, I started to get stronger and I loved how it made me feel. Like, there was sometimes I would spend 10 minutes in the gym. It would take me an hour by the time I got home, showered, went out about my day. And I spent less time in the gym than I did anything. But that small little moment of time, that's what contributed to changing my entire life.
That's amazing. And so you continue doing it. So what I see there is you changed your environment. So you got into getting outside of the house, which took some courage. And then you got around other athletic people that were maybe ahead of you, but you started surrounding yourself around other people that are doing, or maybe they're further down the road than, and where you want to go to. How did you keep going though? Like again, some people would start to get some results and then they fold back, or they start doing this and they end up getting. You had mentioned it earlier, lose 50 pounds. you lose 50 pounds, but then you gain back 80. So what was it that kept you going? And what did you do after that? As you started with like 10 pounds, 5 minutes, right? What kept you going?
The thing that kept me going was how it made me feel. And honestly, the choice not to accept shame and guilt. Because even I'll say 3 or 4 years ago, I actually, out of the 200 pounds that I lost, I actually gained 100 pounds back. So I had gone through some personal treatments, if I can say it, with fertility and things like that. So a lot of different hormone changes. And
Yeah.
I gained 100 pounds back out of the 200 that I lost, and I had to re-lose that weight all over again. And the thing that getting started, and like it's like driving a car when you're at a light, that initial burst of energy is going to cost you a lot of gas. But once you get going and you see how it feels, then it's almost like it's smooth sailing, but somewhere along the lines you got to stop and fuel up again. So the setback the setbacks happen, right? Like we're humans. It's not like I woke up and I was supercharged and raw, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna get super strong, and I'm gonna become superhuman, I'm gonna lift a car and only eat broccoli and Brussels sprouts. I don't even like Brussels sprouts, to be honest with you. But it's accepting that sometimes we fall down and we have to feel the emotions, and then instead of relishing in the shame and, oh, I'm never going to be good enough, I'm never, it's almost like there's a trash can on my shoulder, and I'm like, as soon as I hear those thoughts, I'm going to throw it in this garbage can because this isn't going to help me. But don't get me wrong, sometimes you think about those thoughts, right? And then it's like, what do I do with it? Do I accept it? If I keep telling myself that I'm never going to lose weight, I'm never going to feel my mobility again, if I just relish in that, and I always look at, oh, every time there's a routine, something comes up. This person needs me. My family needs me. Why do I bother? It's like, okay, it's one day out of 30 days. It's one little, like eternity is a big, long line. Where am I here? Here we go. And if you think of a little tiny dot in this moment, we're like this little tiny, tiny little dot right here. So if we feel crummy in this little tiny dot, if you zoom out, there's a much bigger picture. And keeping the eye on the bigger picture, that to me is where the success comes from, the setbacks, the failures, learning, not just in health and fitness, but also in business as well.
Oh, so good. I really like that about having the garbage can kind of on your shoulder. When something comes up, you just throw it in and you keep it outside. I really like that. And so when you see the bigger picture, is it like overall success? Like what do you see when you say bigger picture? Is it the success side of it? Is it the overall journey? Like can you paint a little bit more clarity for what you mean by that?
The bigger picture to me is my mobility. I compete in fitness competitions now, and it's not, I did the ones like where it's how you look, but now I've been doing ones that's how you lift, what your body can do, your timing for things. So I compete that way as well. But in my bigger picture is I see people, whether it's my staff, whether it's gym members, I see people changing their entire lives, and that to me is the fuel to the fire. So my success, I don't want to say it depends on other people, but it depends on what I can bring to them. So when I have really good energy about my workouts and about the business and about like, let's set your soul on fire, let's see what you can do. In return, it's like a fire that's flaming a fire, their fire goes up, mine goes up, and if there's a struggle, we reignite it. And it's like, okay, let's see how we can do. So my big picture, the transformation station, I don't want to franchise. I thought about it last year before I was going to expand, or I was looking at different locations. I'm like, you know what? So I really like Richard Simmons, and I was able to speak with him for a bit. And I've also met Billy Blank. So I've spoken to some of like those big famous professionals. And I love what Richard Simmons did is he had Slimmons Studio in California, and he had one location, and it was just one booming location. And like when you talk to some of like the people that were around him, whether it's searching on the internet or podcasts, the one thing was that he had this hub of fire, and everybody wanted to be a part of the hub of fire. Everybody wanted to go there because it changed their whole life. And that sets me forward as well because I want that hub. And I feel like I've taken a little piece of that puzzle and created that style of a community.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So it's business owner that is listening, so an entrepreneur that's listening, you talked about fueling up. So you take a lot of, we'll say, gasoline to get a lot of fuel to get it off the ground, but then at some point you need to fuel up again. What advice would you give an entrepreneur that maybe they started off really strong and then now they've hit a wall, so to speak? What kind of advice would you give to them to say, here, do this and you're going to fuel back up, and it'll help you carry through the next leg of the journey?
My biggest piece of advice is to adjust your environment, evaluate your environment, see what caused your flame to go out, and do whatever it takes to get that flame to be built back up. And whether that's like the garbage can or the shelf, there's also a shelf in my story. Like whether it's okay, throw the idea out or shelf it or run with it, if you know your reason why, and it's not just about making money or being a showboat, it's about genuinely having that flame inside of you. Once you can like really tap into it, there's no holding you back. When my vision became clear and I said, okay, and I had to pause, and I'm a very high energy person and I think very, very fast and I move very quickly. And sometimes that's a really positive thing. Sometimes it bites you in the butt, but no matter what, I always like to come out on top. So
Yeah.
whether you're evaluating and you're like, okay, let's just run with it and go with it, there's also different things to take into place. Like, do I really want to do this? Am I going to franchise? Am I going to just blow this thing up? Am I actually happy with what I'm doing? And then acting on it, but acting from inside the heart and here and knowing what's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me what you said there that Will Smith has said. He said, when you're on fire with something, when you're on mission, you're going towards something, like the world wants to get out of your way. It's just like water. It just gets out of your way. It's like, holy geez, this person's on fire. I better get out of their way. And it's funny how that, I mean, in your case there, it's very evident that you're lit up with something. And it's interesting because all successful people, they have something that drives them. And I actually did a podcast on this on my other podcast, The Full Real Estate Agent, and I talk about motivators. And so motivators are something that it can be something small, as in to prove somebody wrong, or it could be, you have maybe there's an award that you want to win, right? And so whatever that is for you, it doesn't even, and it could be a fear of failure as well. That's actually for a lot of successful people, I found that the idea of failing and letting somebody down is so painful for them that it drives them to go that extra mile, make those extra phone calls at the end of the day when you don't feel like it, wake up a little extra early just to make sure that you're going to make that happen. And that kind of mindset is what you need in order to have success. It's what Napoleon Hill talks about, is having a strong desire. You can relabel it as your why or your mission or your purpose or your motivator, but whatever that is for you, there's got to be some sort of stimulus that pushes you to take action and to get out of that, the day-to-day monotonous, we'll say, drift that most people are going through.
Definitely. My biggest motivator, like as soon as you walk into the gym, there's pictures and there's a lot of reviews from members. And it talks about like how I was struggling with depression. I forced myself to get out of my home. I met this amazing community. I've been a part of this gym for 3 years, and people have like their testimonials all over the gym wall as soon as you walk in. And when I see that, the thought of somebody not like I created this gym and this community to be things that I would have really loved to have had. So right now we're doing a book study on Mel Robbins' Let Them book. We have different 5K runs coming up with the Butter Tart Trot in Midland, and like we're connecting with like-minded people. And that's something, when I did go to a public gym, fast forward many years ago, I didn't necessarily have that. So when I walk in and I see people that are like, I'm excited to be here, I'm like, cool, me too. And your excitement is making me excited. And as soon as someone walks in the door, I'm like, hi, it's so good to see you. Hey, how's your dog doing? How's this going? And it's really genuinely a connection. The thought of having over 100 people, 150 plus members at this time, the thought of disappointing even one person who was on the brink of changing their entire life. That's why I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I'm ready to go. That's why I'm in classes beside someone who's nervous because like I'm scared to come to my first class because everyone says that they're accepting and I don't know if this is actually an accepting place. And I'm like, okay, you know what? let me get in my workout with you today. I'm your workout buddy. I'm your friend in the room. The coach is going to be phenomenal. That's why they're a part of the team, but I'm right here with you and let's sweat together. And then at the end, we give each other a high five, and they're like, I can't believe I was afraid, and now I feel like I'm at home. So for me, that's the driving force.
That's incredible. And you have such a powerful story that would inspire and speak to so many people out there. You know, when we met at the women's show, we had a Fairs team had a booth there as well, and I was walking around, and Christina, you were there with your crew, and it was so interesting because everybody there at the table, there's I don't know, there's like 5 or 6 of your team members there, and they're like, "We love it here," and they're all lit up, and so you attracted a very similar client profile in regards to what lit them up. And so my question to you is, how does a entrepreneur go about building a community? So we talked a little bit about being clear about what it is you want, but I'm curious as to how did you continue to build that community up from scratch? So this is just an idea. And so what advice would you give the entrepreneurs? Like, how did you do it? And how can they kind of take that same concept and, apply it to their own business?
Genuinely, there's so many things I can say about that, but I
Please.
love
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I love people. I'm super nosy. I like kids. I like pets. I love these things. And a lot of the people that walk through our doors, they haven't had not everybody, but most of them, they haven't had people take genuine interest in them. And I share my stories and what I did for the weekend as well when people ask me. But when people come in, I just love to learn about them. I love to know why they're standing in the gym. Anybody can pull up a good workout off of Google. Anybody can go and work out in their home. We have a lot of people that work from home now, and they're joining our group classes, and they just love the energy that circulates the room. Everyone loves a good theme class, so I make things exciting. I don't, to be honest, I love more like Latin based music and stuff with like a hard beat. I don't necessarily love like, let's say, classic rock, if I could say that, which a lot of my members are like, oh my gosh, you don't like classic rock. But I asked the members to compile a playlist for me to do a theme circuit class to classic rock. And I found stuff that had a good beat to it, but they essentially compiled this idea and this playlist, and I just ran with it. And that set me on fire because they also saw me say, like, that's not something that you love, but we love it, and you're going to try something new with us. So the number one thing is actually be interested in who you're serving. I know that when I walk into a grocery store, and I don't scoop out people at the grocery store because I've had people come up to me before and say, hey, I'm a personal trainer, here's my business card, and that shoots through people's hearts. I don't like it, so I don't do it. But I know my general market. And
Mm.
when I meet someone for the first time, I already know that person is going to be on fire if they walk through the
Mm.
doors of the transformation station, because that's our general person that we serve. And it has nothing to do with how people look. We have so many people that look different ways in here, but it has to do with that connection. So we have somehow found over 150 people that radiate something that they need that we're offering. And that's confidence, it's self-esteem, it's not just being a face. When I look at my roster of members, I know everybody's name, I know everything about pretty much everyone who walks through the door. So it's really having a genuine interest in who it is you're serving. If there's someone that comes to me and they ask me for a service, and I know that we actually don't really, how do you say, like, bond together, I'll refer them to somebody else because I do
Mm.
have quite a few friends, gym owners in Barrie as well. If it's not necessarily a good fit, and I always say, like, when you walk into the doors, I'm not going to tell you this is the best place for you to be. I'm
Hmm.
going to tell you that come in and let's see if you find that this is a good fit for you. And then we'll go from there because we are not here to service every single person in Barrie. We're here to service the person that needs us the most. And that's who we draw in. So when people come and they're like, you know what, I tried the gym and I've had this before. And I've said, people have came in and they're like, you know what, I've tried this, I've tried a class. I don't think it's the right fit for me. The old Christina used to be offended and be like, I need to try to make myself into what they're looking for. The new Christina says, hey, that's okay. Can I recommend another gym that might be more your style since we've talked about what your goals are? And then
Mm.
that leaves space for me to make a relationship with someone who we can service better and who we get along well with because you're going to thrive in the environment that you want to go to.
Man, what you just explained there is a very advanced marketing branding technique. And so I'll share a quick story that, and it's around getting very clear who your core client is. And so the story is with the leader of Southwest, and so his name's Herb. And so Herb, they were getting this email from this one particular traveler that was upset they didn't have first class seating, the food wasn't that great, there's like complaint after complaint, months and months. She continued to send these complaints to Southwest, and eventually what happened was Herb ended up writing a handwritten letter back, said, dear Miss Crabapple, you will be missed, you will be missed. So Herb, as the leader, as the president of Southwest Airlines, actually was okay telling somebody that we're just not the right fit here. And so Herb was very, very clear who their core client was and what was important to their core client. And he's willing to say no to people. And I think that from an advanced technique in any sort of business, and there's a good book called Uncommon Service, where you can be extremely great at one thing, but you can be equally bad at something else and be okay to lose clients. But being extremely good at the one thing appeals to a certain demographic of the marketplace. And so it's very hard for a lot of business owners to get that kind of clarity that you have, Christina, and that kind of discipline to stick with it, because most businesses, they want everyone, like, come on, everybody, come on in, I can serve everybody, we do everything well here. And what's so interesting is that the businesses that do that in general, they don't do as well as the ones that are extremely polarizing in their approach, and they know what they're, but the key is knowing where they shine, what they're excellent at, and knowing what they're not that great at, and being okay to tell people we don't do that, we actually do this really well, and are we the right fit or not. And they're okay with one or another, and they know that them being extremely good at that one thing is going to attract the right client. And but sticking with it, though, I'll tell you, is a real discipline. So I really applaud you for having that kind of intensity and focus, and knowing who your core client is and appealing to them.
Thank you. It's been quite a learning curve. I think I would say my focus for that has changed in the last year. And actually that's, in like all honesty, learning about my Enneagram, learning how to operate and heal my own emotional intelligence, because I also link that with emotional intelligence as well. As I was able to see again the bigger picture, but even zone in on that smaller picture that's so important, that's how, like, pretty much in the last year I went from coaching almost every class myself to now having 11 people on staff and having over 150 members. At one time, I was chasing almost every member because I'm like,
Right.
well, we need the business to survive. We're not going to be here if we don't survive.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I want to be able to enjoy and be proud of the transformation station. And I can honestly say, Mark, for the first time, we just had our 6th birthday this month. I can honestly say for the first time, I am so proud of the transformation station. And I don't mean I'm just proud of myself as an entrepreneur. I never did this to win an award. And how you had explained, like, everyone has like that motivator.
Yeah.
My motivator was the fear of failure, but my biggest motivator is the fear to let other people down. And that also
Mm.
goes with the Enneagram 3 as well. So once I was able to zone in on that, that's when it's almost like magic started to happen. And I didn't do it effortlessly, but it became an effortless process because it became what was more natural.
Yeah, it's so interesting how you have more fun, how clients have more fun, you attract the right people, and you actually repel the wrong people, which actually protects the main business, right? Um, no, it's good, and just knowing that and doubling down on that, that's been a big part of your. I know over the last 12 months you've grown immensely, and so I think there's maturity that comes with that, and you're obviously seeing the success from that. So, how would for the listeners out there to say, "Oh, could this be the right fit for me?" How would you explain your core client that maybe is listening and say, "Yeah, I should, maybe come check you guys out and check the gym out."
My core client is Someone who's not afraid to have a little bit of fun with their fitness. So we have a variety of different classes. We have Zumba step, we have strength training, we have circuit training, we have kickboxing with fight simulator bags. We have a whole bunch of things. Our clientele is generally someone who, it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, because we have so many people join as, I call them singletons. They join by themselves, but because we also have a branded app, you're able to make friends and see who's in your classes as well. So people that are like, you know what, I need a little piece of social with my fitness, and I want to be able just to wear whatever I want to the gym. Like, I see some people at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I see them sometimes after work, and I'm like, who are you? And they're like, I love that I can come here with my hair a mess. Sometimes I don't even brush my teeth, and I'm in workout class because my alarm went off late, and I know that I can throw on a pair of old yoga pants and a baggy t-shirt and just head to the gym, and everyone is equally as nice and everyone talks to you and nobody judges. So we genuinely, I can say, we have a judgment-free zone, and people love just to have fun in the space.
Yeah, that's so well said. And it's very succinct. And it's good that you know that. And that's what I recommend to all the listeners out there. You're running a business, getting very clear who is your core client that you believe you can serve better than anyone else out there. And then maybe here's maybe something that I don't do very well, and doubling down on the thing that you do well, and then not spending any attention on the thing that you don't do well in. And so, there's some people there that just it's all about fun. And for us on the real estate side, on the selling side, for us it's about professionalism. And so for us, we're not about like discount, low fee, no fee. For us it's about value and putting as much profit in the pocket as clients as possible. So we believe from a value standpoint we can actually do that and net more money in their pocket and have a much better experience. But that's where for us, we're not showing up in flip flops and shorts to our listing appointments, because professionalism is one of those things that are really important. Market expertise is something that's really important. So we spend a ton of time in training and not so much, just winging it. And so getting very clear on what it is that you do really well in, and then knowing the client that will resonate with that is something that's, and so one of the things for us as well is we tend to service, we'll say there's the average sale price, there's like ultra prestigious, and then there's kind of this in between the and so we do a lot of the prestigious over a couple $1 million. We'll do a lot of those sales, but we're above average. And so some of the team members in the past is like, we got to let the new sellers, we got to let them know that we do the lower priced sales as well. We don't only do the multi-million-dollar sales. And I'm like, listen, for us, we will serve them, but that value and that premium package that we built up through our branding and delivering great service, that's who we are. And so there's going to be sellers in that lower price range that will still be appeal to that, but we can't try and be everything to everyone in our messaging. And so again, that's just another example. And so for the listeners out there, it's like, what is it that you do really well? Double down on that thing, get super clear. And there will be a lot of people that come up in your life like, we need to do this, we need to do that. Or you get a customer saying, I want this. Maybe they might be the right fit over there. And this is what we do really well. And actually, Christine, when you said that, it's like, this might be a better fit for you. I don't know if this has been your experience, but what I've found is they almost you're more attractive to them when you say that to them. It's like, what? You're not going to fight for my business? Has that been your experience?
I have found that. And sometimes after I've recommended something to somebody and they're like, oh, yeah, that does look like a better fit, they've actually came back even a year, 2 years later. So right now in February, we have a lot of members that are returning after we rebranded, and they're coming back and they're saying, I don't know what I was thinking for the past 2 years. I tried and I was seeking out what I thought I was looking for, and it was you guys. So now I'm back at the transformation station. And I'm like, cool. How
Yeah.
are you enjoying the new classes, the new coaches? And they say, I've never felt so a part of anything.
Mm.
And you know what? I love that you brought up about how your professionalism. So I had some of my team and we were walking through the parking lot at the women's show, and I saw the Faris team. I knew the Faris team was there before I even saw you, to be honest with you. And you could tell by just the way they carry themselves, even in the parking lot, even how they're dressed, even from their shoes. And I was like, that's definitely the Ferris team. And I said to my girls beside me, I'm like, you see how that branding is so strong? That's what I love. I love the branding. I've had a member here for over 3 years, and she said to me the other day, because I made a post on Instagram about myself, about the owner, and how we're not a franchise. A lot of people think that we are a franchise. She walked in the next day and she's like, "You're not a franchise?" I'm like, "No. The transformation station, this I built this. This is my little gift to the world, I guess.
Yeah.
This is something I've built from scratch, from the programming to the coaches to the style to everything. I built it from scratch." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, this whole time I thought there was multiple locations." And I said, "Thank you. That means so much to me. That means that my marketing has been very precise throughout all of my advertising, because that's something I struggled with when I was first learning how to grow, is how to brand and to learn to lean into your brand, because I'm not looking at, which I love your branding and I love what you stand for. I'm not looking at the way your team is dressing and coming in here wearing leather shoes and pinup blazers and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place when people walk into the gym and they see, like, I look clean, I look presentable, but I look a certain way. People will say, "Hey, I resonate with
Yeah.
you and I resonate with your style." And that's something that I really love. And also when people are saying, you're saying about, like, if your team is saying, let's service the different market. I'm not going to say one's better than the other. I'm going to say they're all different. But there's a lot of people that come in, and even if they're coming in on a new chapter in our book of business, there's sometimes a lot of suggestions. And there's a lot of, well, why don't we try this? Why don't we do that? And it's kind of like, we've tried that. We're on the right path. Or someone's like, let's come up with a new program. Or sometimes I get coaches that they want to run ship. And this isn't now, this is previously. That's why I ended up doing everything myself. I had to learn how to trust my team and trust in who I was hiring. I wasn't hiring just anyone who walked through my doors. I had to make sure it was the most perfect fit for our community and our members that we're servicing. When I started to, instead of taking every idea and that shelf that I talked about, it's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take that idea. That's a no go, done it, tried, tested, and true. I trust myself as an entrepreneur. I'm going to put that in the garbage can. Or, hey, you know what? I didn't think about it quite like that. Let me put that in my brain bank. Let me think about it. Instead of being so quick, I used to just answer, yeah, you want to switch in the schedule? I'm going to do that. Hey, you want this class? I'm going to do that. You want me to discount 50% of my membership to get people through the door? Sure. And now I'm like, no, 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 because I know when I want something, you pay for that. And when it delivers that quality, so shifting from how can I service better and give more value, that changed the game.
Yeah. 100%. And the value is in the differentiation. So if you think of a grocery store and you think of all the pop or the soda, as they call in the US. So you see all the soda or the pop all along in that one aisle. And if you came from another plant and you came and you looked, it would probably look all the same. And so that's where differentiation is, where when you walk into a room or somebody, what your client walks into a room, they want to, you want your business to be not on the same table screaming at the client, hey, look at me, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm number one and number one. You want to be on your own table, and that you want to have a different message than what everybody else is saying so that you can attract that client. And so there's more value creation when you create differentiation. And it's interesting because I hear this word strategy a lot. And I think that a lot of people out there using that word don't understand what strategy is. Strategy, the best definition I've heard of strategy is that strategy the is the differentiating activities that are highly valuable to your client, to your core client. And so the differentiating activities is like, this is what makes us different. This is what makes us unique. That's where strategy can be applied. And so I just think that overall in a business, your very first thing to create strategy is to come up with the differentiating activities that are highly valuable to your client. And so there's a couple parts with that. One is, what can you be the best in the world at? What are you passionate about? Jim Collins talks about this. And then how can you make money with that? And then who is your core client that's going to be attracted to that? If you could figure that out, and double down on that. I mean, you're a perfect testament to this. And I like it's rare to be having this conversation. And so for the listeners out there, it's once you grasp onto this and you double down on it, you will just attract clients. Like they'll come from across the room and or across the city, and they're gonna figure you out. They're gonna connect. And when they see it, it's gonna be like, almost the action will be much greater than if you don't do it, if you try and kind of be the same as everybody else. So it's the values and the differentiation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's great. I love that differentiation for you, and that the fun side of it makes a lot of sense. And I saw it when I met you at that booth. It was like, okay, that's very clear. And we have a master marketer, brander, but also building your community as well. So my next question is any habits that you do on a regular basis that's helped you be productive as an entrepreneur? Is there anything, waking up early, we know now you do, but is there anything that really helps you drive overall results in your business that you do on a regular basis?
Yes. Waking up early is my number one thing, but I don't really wear like house clothes. So as soon as I wake up, I know it's a little bit TMI, but as soon as I wake up, I go into my ensuite, I wash my face, brush my teeth, put on fresh clothes of the day. And then I plan what I'm doing for the rest of the day. I go downstairs to my kitchen, I grab a glass of water, I drink my water first, even before I decide what I'm having for breakfast. And I already have my workouts planned out. And automatically I take care of myself. I make sure I'm refreshed. I don't even own slippers. So I won't even make myself cozy because I know, judging from my past history, because my new habits and my old habits sometimes they can collide. So I do my very best, especially Monday to Friday, that I will be charged for the day. I like to work out in the morning. If I happen to be coaching a group class, I know that I'm coaching it in the morning, and then in the evening when I have another instructor, I'm going in as a member and finishing the workout. So I know that I always make sure that I work out 5 to 6 days a week, and I don't go more than 2 days back to back without having exercise or hit style training. And that to me has changed everything because not just for my physical well-being, but for my mental health. When my workouts are sharp and my nutrition is healthy, then I know that I'm operating at a higher level and a higher frequency because I'm a really big believer is garbage in, garbage out, which
Mm,
opposite opposingly means good stuff in is good stuff out. And one thing that I really struggled with back in its time was fast food and takeout and binge eating. So that's something that I know if I go into those patterns, I don't want to do that because all my successes right now is built on myself and how I feel, not necessarily how I look, but how I feel and how I perform. So when I'm feeding good stuff in my daily routine, then that's something that's consistent.
that's good. So if we have a craving, anybody has a craving out there, what's the best way to deal? I mean, ideal, and generally it's late at night. I mean, any bad habits that I have, it's like I grab a bag of, chips or, you know, the ice cream or whatnot. When you have that craving, what would you recommend in that moment? You're like, oh, I feel a craving. What, what suggestion would you have for us?
I feel like because there's so many different types of personalities and histories and experiences. So I know if I'm in the right mindset, I'll give in and have my moderation, or like some people call it a cheat meal, or have like my craving, and I'll give into it if I know that my mentality is on the straight and narrow. If I'm like, oh, I'm driving in my car and I feel like eating, let's say, a Big Mac or something, and I know that's going to spin me into a spiral, and then a week goes by, and if I'm my number one thing is when I eat poorly, I don't I don't perform at my very best. I don't want to wake up early in the morning anymore. And to me, my magic, I also believe that how I function, waking up super early in the morning. There's some people that are just as successful, if not more successful, and they wake up at 10 o'clock in the afternoon and they're up until 2 o'clock making their magic. So, but for me, my magic comes from waking up at 4:30 in the morning and getting my day started. So if I'm sluggish, then I'm not going to want to be performing at my best. So my number one thing is do what you think is going to be good for you. I love if there's a sugar-free version. there's a huge debate about sugar-free products, and I can tell you that sugar-free products saved my life. When I was 400 pounds and 15 years old, my mobility, I was still growing as a kid. I am at a lighter weight and more mobile now at almost 40 years old than I was in the sixth grade. And even when I say that out loud, that's so hard for me to wrap my mind around. But what works for one person is going to be different for someone else. If I can find a sugar free version, I'm going to take it. And there's sometimes I'm like, you know what? Let's find a stevia version instead of aspartame. Let's do a little bit better. Or there's some days I'm like, you know what? I feel like having chocolate. I'm going to have some almonds and a bite of an apple, and this is going to be great.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's good. I once heard Montel Williams, he was going through some health challenges, and he said that when, because he can't eat junk food as part of his health issues that he was going through. And one of the things that he said was, I stopped looking at, if it was like he was going to have a salad with chicken, he stopped thinking of that as, oh, I got to have that and I can't have, all these treats. He started thinking as the salad and the chicken as, oh, I'm so blessed that I get to have this, and started looking at the food different. Because, if you look at it as like, oh, I can only have this and I can't have what I really want over here. He flipped the story to, I get to eat this. I have the opportunity to have the salad and the amazing chicken that's grilled to perfection. And it's all about how you look at things. So you can look at a glass half full or half empty. And so it's all your perspective. It's the same scenario. It's just, how do you look at it? So one person would see it as, wow, I get to have this half glass of water. That's amazing. And somebody else can look at that same thing and say, wow, I only get half a glass. I'm missing half a glass. What's going on here? And so whenever you're looking at things, perspective is so important. And I know food is a big part of that as well. So um, that's your reference that you gave there, Christina, is really great. Really good insight.
Thank you. That's just everything in the long run for me is all about a perspective, also how you use that perspective. So when I was first starting, I had a really bad fast food addiction. I would go through the drive through 3, 4 times a day. To me, that came with my poor habits and my poor mentality. And when I decided to flip the script, I love the reference from Cobra Kai. If you've seen it, the flip the script, where he was bullied and then he flips his script. He has a big eagle tattoo. He comes in with a mohawk and it's kind of like, no one's ever making fun of me again. So I guess like my flipping the script was opening the transformation station. But I also have used that thinking even back when I was first starting out. So I would even say to my friends, because at the time, I was the only one who had a car. So I was like the driving person of everybody. And we were always hitting up drive throughs before we would head out for the night or after. And I would say to them, I'm like, hey, we can still go to the fast food restaurants, but here's my rule since I'm driving and it's my car. You can choose not to accept or you can choose to accept. These are my boundaries and the ball's in your court what you choose to do, but this is how it's going to go. I'm gonna at the time it was AMP on Bayfield Street. And I'm like, I'm gonna go to AMP, which is now Metro, I believe. They have fresh made salads, they have fresh made food. I'm gonna go there. That's our first stop of the night. I'm gonna get my chicken salad, and then I will not start eating. I will eat with you all together. But my rule is I'm gonna park in the parking lot and you're gonna go in and get your food and bring it back to the car. That's going to be the deal because I am not putting my car in a drive-through anymore. And I would convince myself, even when I was alone, we're not going through a drive-through anymore because my car will break down. And I had
Mm,
a lot of shame about my weight and eating in public. My car's going to break down. Someone's going to see me and they're going to say, look at that 400-pound girl stuck broken down in the McDonald's drive-through. There's a lot of people who struggle with binge eating disorder. They love going through the drive-through and having like a secret seance with their food. And then they go out about their time and they feel nothing but shame or guilt. So
right.
that's something that I loved to do at the time, whether
Mm,
you're happy, whether you're sad, it's just that's food sometimes. And my friends, they respected that. And then my next challenge was okay, instead of this small personal size salad with two, I'd pay extra for the extra packets. You know, when you get like the salad dressing,
yeah.
instead of having two packets with a small salad that's meant for a large salad, I'm going to use one packet with the small salad. And then fast forward 2, 3 months, I used one packet. And I know like when you hear it, it's such a small thing, but it's such a piece of the bigger picture. because it was, to me, it was an example of, even before I knew what boundaries were, I already started to set them in place. And now that I'm more educated in boundaries and emotional intelligence, I can recognize that and I can see how I can work with it, not just for me to have my boundaries and be respected, but when my boundaries are respected, I'm also in a healthier state to respect other people's boundaries as well.
Yeah, that's really good. Setting up rules. I mean, just like if you're allergic to peanut butter, you have a rule that you just don't eat peanut butter. It's not a decision, or if you don't need to use willpower to decide if you're going to do it or not. If you set up a rule, just like being allergic to peanut butter, to whatever it is that you're going after, or maybe you're trying to stay away from, I really like that, how you implemented that with your friends and you executed, and then you took slow steps, right? Instead of the two packages, it's like, okay, I'm going to just bring it down to one right now, and doing kind of small steps along the way. I think that's just genius. And so it's very clear to me why you've continued this on, and you've done a lot of the right steps. And of course, you're getting massive traction. You're getting a great following as well. For the entrepreneurs that are out there and they're listening. So investing is one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs, they start making money, they start doing well in business, and they just don't know what to do because there's just so much noise out there. So, do you have any advice or recommendations when it comes down to what an entrepreneur should invest in, or maybe some principles or lessons that you learned when it comes down to investing your funds that you get from being successful business owner?
Honestly, I like to save a little bit, but I'm very much so as I put it into the business. So the more the business has been successful, I've had members here for 4, 5, 6 years, and the number one thing they say is Christina's always changing things up and always making things fresh. So recently, we got a whole bunch of cardio pump bars, which I didn't have before. I invested in some different style of steps than I had before. So along the lines, I mean, it's easy to say like the more money you make, the more money you spend it, and to have Amazon on like click order and stuff like that. But I really came down to, okay, instead of, now we're not just paying bills here. Now we're actually operating at a profit. And for me to invest in higher quality marketing, it took me 5 years to get into some of my automations. So when people come to the gym for the first time, instead of me always trying to, what's the word, play catch up when there's so many high traffic people coming through here, I now have systems in place. So I was able to upgrade my systems, all my things like that, and now actually think about, hey, where am I going to put my business and my belief system, instead of, how do you say it? Like, instead of settling, let's say, for crummy quality food, now we can afford to eat better. And I look
Mm,
at that not just from a food perspective, but from a business perspective as well. Now that we've grown and we've enriched our business, our mental health, our entrepreneurship, now where are we gonna healthily invest in other spaces? And to me, investing right back into the business, not every single penny goes right back into the business, but going and growing with the masses and changing of the times, getting new certifications, getting more education. To me, that's just like, I'm a sponge, and I'm an Enneagram 3, like I said, I'm never my best. I'm always wanting to get better and better and better. And I'm learning how to say, hey, Christina, good job. Whereas before I'd be like, no, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not big enough. We have to attain these goals. 3 days ago, I hit my top goal of the gym that I had since I opened. And then I went, now what? Okay,
yeah,
let's level up again. Now we're going to set the bar a little bit higher, and we're going to play within that range
yeah.
for now.
Wow. Such a great story. Well, we could keep talking as well and dive into other parts of the business, but we're coming to an end here. So, you ready for the rapid fire? We have 3 questions for you, Christina, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay,
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right,
Nervous. But
cool.
maybe.
So, what's the book that's had the biggest impact on your business?
Relentless by Tim Grover.
The goodie. Yeah. So Michael Jordan's trainer, pretty phenomenal. Okay. Next question. So 3 words to best describe you. The people that know you best, what 3 words would they use?
Energetic.
Hmm.
What's the word? There's a word that a lot of people say. Oh, self aware. That's the word a lot of people say about me. Energetic, self-aware, and probably I'd say fun. I live on the fun side. I like to have fun.
Well, that I think that describes your culture really well at the gym. So that's pretty cool. And final question here for you is: what advice would you give let's just say a new entrepreneur, or maybe an entrepreneur that wants to take their business to the next level?
I'm gonna say guard your environment. Number one, guard your environment. And I always think when someone gives me advice or criticism, I like in my head something that's got me through the last few years is don't take advice from someone you wouldn't change lives with, and don't take criticism from someone that you wouldn't change lives with as well. So, like, really knowing who you are as a person, being strong in your boundaries, and not being afraid to communicate it, but also not getting discouraged when a door is shut. Because the number one thing for myself that it's been is learning to knock on those doors. And if the door isn't for you and it's not opening, you're going to go to the next door and you're going to find something that works for you and your business, and not looking, keeping your own eye focused on your prize. So you're not looking at what's, I had somebody who recently had closed a gym. I'm not going to say any names, but she came up to me and she said, I always looked at your Instagram and I always looked at your website to see what you were doing the latest because you're my biggest competition. And I looked at her, I'm like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Didn't you think that about me?" I'm like, "Honestly, I never once thought about your business." And she went, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah. I never once, if I saw you post something, I'm the first person to like it and say, 'Yes, right on.'" Because there's so many opportunity in Barrie. Just because, like you said, the pop in the soda aisle, just because there's one beside you, it doesn't mean it's not your competition.
Yeah, that's so well said. And you've created such great differentiation there as well that it's like I think you're in a different aisle altogether with what you're doing, which is what's making you attractive to your core client as well. So, wow, this has been a great conversation, Christina. The listeners that are out there, how can they reach out to you, connect with you, and maybe check your gym out?
Our website is always booming, thetransformationstation.ca. You can reach me directly by email, Christina with a CH, at thetransformationstation.ca. I'm always happy to help and I'm always happy to answer questions. And if anyone wants to have a quick workout, I love having a new workout buddy.
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to the show. If you liked it, you can go ahead and share and subscribe to the channel where we are building a community of up and coming entrepreneurs. And if you are interested in investing into real estate, we do have a couple of deals actually down south in the southeast side of the US where we're buying these apartment buildings. You can reach out to fariscapitalpartners.com to find out more about how you can partner with us to invest in these larger apartment buildings. Thanks for coming on to the Mark Faris Experience. I love you guys.